In this episode, we're going to take a look at spool pins, what they are, how to detect them, and how to defeat them. Hey folks, welcome to Pugs Picks Locks. If you're new here, go ahead and click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you'll always be notified when I release new content like this. And if you like the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Give the video a like. And then leave a question or a comment down below. I'm more than happy to engage with you in the comments section, both to answer your questions, but also to receive your feedback. I don't always get everything right. So did I get something wrong? Is there something I could do better? Please let me know. I'm more than happy to hear that feedback from you. All right, let's dive in. In my very first video on this channel, I opened this Brinks Security commercial 40mm padlock. And as I was opening it, as I was picking it open, I said something along the lines of, oh, feels like there's a spool pin in there. But I didn't explain what a spool pin was, and I didn't explain how I knew there was a spool pin there, and I didn't explain what I did to defeat it. So this video aims to correct all of that. This video is devoted to spool pins, what they are, how to detect them, and how to defeat them. Okay, so on the screen you see a diagram of a spool pin, and you can see how the spool pin got its name. It is shaped like a spool. It has the body of the pin, which is called the barrel, and then it has a flange at the top and at the bottom, shaped like a spool. And this is what a spool pin looks like at rest inside the core. So it looks like an ordinary pin, except for, a narrow barrel and two flanges. The trick is that when you set pins around the other pins in the lock, you'll eventually get to what's called a false set. And this diagram shows what a false set looks like. A false set is going to feel like you just set a pin, click, and then you'll get a big movement out of the core. I tension with my right thumb, and so it'll be like click, and then a big movement out of the core as the tension wrench turns. That is called a false set because it feels like everything is set and you can open the lock, but you can't. The core turns a great deal, but then the lock doesn't open. So a false set, as you can see, is when the top flange is in the Bible, the bottom flange is still in the core, and the shear line is now caught on the barrel of the lock in between the two flanges. And so you can see how much rotation you can get out of that situation. Now this diagram shows how what's called counter rotation. As you are trying to set this spool pin, as you're trying to push this pin into the Bible, you will see that the core has to rotate back towards the 12 o'clock position in order to allow the bottom flange to pass the shear line and move into the Bible. That false set and followed by the counter rotation as you try to set it, those are the two key indicators that you've encountered a spool pin. And so let's go ahead and demonstrate this. So hopefully you'll be able to see it, and I'll talk through how I'm dealing with that spool pin and the counter rotation. So let's just start with this Brinks Security padlock again. And I'm going to use bottom of the keyway tension for this because I prefer bottom of the keyway tension. And I'm going to use this Z wrench. It's shaped like a Z. And so we're going to insert this into the bottom of the keyway. And like I said, I tension with my right thumb. So I'm going to hold the lock here and I'm going to tension here. And we're going to use a shallow pagoda hook. This is a sharp pointy hook, and the point on the hook lets it slide in between, you really feel the spaces in between the pins, which then gives you a good idea of where you are in the lock. And so you can just move a little bit, get on top of a pin, and try to set it. Okay, so we're going to be using light tension here, and light tension, again, is this. I can pass the pick between my thumb and the tension tool without much resistance at all. Heavy tension, you can start to see the tension tool flex. And medium tension is a place right in between the two, and you can see I have to work a little harder to get my pick to slide through between the thumb and the tension wrench. Okay, so we're going to use light tension, and I like to pick from the back of the lock to the front, so I'm going to put my pick all the way to the back of the lock. I'm going to pull the pick out until it catches on the last pin. This lock has 5 pins, so let me remove the tension altogether and let's count the pins together. So, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 pins in there, 5 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 pins. So I'm going to put the pick all the way at the back of the lock. I'm going to apply my light tension, and I'm going to pull the pick out until it catches on pin 5. And then and pin 5 gave a tiny little click. It wasn't even audible, but you could see the core move. So let's actually reset the lock, and I'm going to show you that so you can see what that false set looks like. Okay, that time we got an audible click. I was using a little bit more tension, and you could see the tension wrench move, hopefully. So I'm going to do that one more time, reset the lock, and watch my thumb and the tension tool. There, audible click and big movement. So now I'm going to move to pin 4, since I have a false set, and I felt a little counter rotation and then back into the deep false set here. I don't know how visible that was, but let's do that again on pin 3, and it's pushing back against my thumb, and then we have our false set back again. Pin 2, that feels like it's already set. So that either might be a 0 lift pin, or it might be a I might have set it as I was manipulating the other pins. It might have been a freebie. So either a 0 lift or a freebie. So let's move on to pin 1. And pin 1 is giving me a lot of counter rotation. Do you see that? As I set pin 1, it pushes back, and then we get a click, and we get our open. Celebratory swivel. Yay. Okay. Let's see that with our second example, which is this big old chunky 50 millimeter ABUS titanium. For this lock, we're going to use the same set of tools. We're going to still use the Z-wrench, and we're going to still use this pagoda pick. All right, this pagoda hook. So back to the keyway, on bottom of the keyway tension, we're going to insert our pick to the back of the core, back of the lock, and then we're going to pull the pick out until it catches on the last pin. This lock is a 6-pin lock, and if we release our tension, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I didn't get all the pins. So release tension, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's nice to know how many pins you're dealing with. So this is a 6-pin lock. So we're going to go to the back of the lock, pull the pick out until it catches on pin 6. Pin 6, pin 6, that actually feels set. So that might be a 0 lift pin also, but we'll come back to it. Pin 5, I touched it, and I don't know if you saw that we got a little bit of a false set going on. So pin 5, touched it, false set. And now as I press harder on pin 5, I got a little bit of counter rotation, and then it's set. Pin 4 is springy. Pin 3 feels set. Pin 2. Okay, pin 2 is giving a little bit of counter rotation. I don't know if you could see that as barely perceptible. And then pin 1, a deeper false set. So now we have a pretty deep false set here. So now we're going to go back and play Hunt the Spool. So I'm going to go to the back of the lock. 6 still feels set. 5 feels set. 4 is giving counter rotation. Look at that. That's a pretty big movement. Okay, now as I set 4, I heard and felt other pins drop back into the core. And this is one of the things that you have to pay attention to with spool pins, because the core has to go back kind of to 12 o'clock position almost as you're setting the spool, as you're getting that bottom flange to clear the shear line. Because the core counter rotates, it gives other pins the opportunity to drop back into the core. So that's, I could tell by the way it felt and then by the way it sounded that that's what happened. So I just got to click off a 2, and I got to click off a 1, and we have her open. So it was 2 and 1 that dropped back into the core. And since we got her open, celebratory swivel, yay! And there you have it. That is how to detect, how to defeat, and what spool pins actually are. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, remember to drop a like and leave a comment or a question below. If you're new here, subscribe and ring the notification bell for more content like this. Until the next video, happy picking y'all.